Chapter 17 of Ghost Academy by E.C. Farrell. By day 2 of my confinement in the healing ward, cabin fever sets in hard. I sit on the bed, jogging my knee and flicking the pages of the 5th book I've read in the last 24 hours. To say I'm no longer interested would be the greatest understatement of all time. I'm seriously contemplating mutiny. The ugly wound on my shoulder isn't nearly as dark as it was, and though it still hurts, if I lie really still, I can barely feel the pulse of the pain. I'm also having less dizzy spills. I gather all of this excellent evidence of my recovery in my head. If I present it right, maybe I'll be able to leave earlier than Miss Alvarez initially predicted. I'm also itching to get away from the healer after her conversation with the headmaster. Straight up asking her about it crossed my mind, but somehow I doubt I'll get the truth if I do. Especially with the general party line of keeping scary information away from the students, lest they crumble into a crazy teen panic. This is just another thing I'm going to have to get the Untwist the Mystery team researching. I open my mouth, but Miss Alvarez, who has her back to me, lifts a finger. Don't even think about asking. You let Rafe leave this morning. A whine I don't like tinges my words. And he had 2 gunshot wounds. Yes, but he also wasn't shot straight through the chest, nor did he expend an extraordinary amount of magical energy against a group of Hexers. But I feel fine, really. I give her my best smile as she turns in her chair, crossing her arms. If you can walk from your bed to the door without looking like a drunken fool, I'll consider it. I shove my book off my lap, watch my math skills, and prepare to be amazed. Sliding onto the floor, I'm very careful about how I stand. Any sign of weakness will leave me trapped in here for another few days. I grin at Miss Alvarez, proud of my progress, then take my first step. I flew too close to the sun, my feet tangled together, and I sway to the side, very much like a drunken idiot. Even worse, waves of nausea flow through me, and I cover my mouth. Can ghosts puke? Gripping the side of that stupid stiff bed, also known as my prison, I slide back onto the mattress and ease against the pillow. Still convinced it's time for me to send you back into the wild, Miss Alvarez asks. I groan a little, but concede defeat by pulling a tissue from the box next to me and waving it white flag style. Guess the difference between sitting up and standing is a much wider gap than I originally assumed. Black dots pulse even in the dark of my closed eyes. My head pounds so hard. I'm more happy to resign myself to this bed as long as Miss Alvarez commands. Sudden exhaustion pulls me under, bringing relief. Our first foray out to try and deal with some unfinished business has triggered new dreams. I can't say I'm not relieved to be done with the nightmares from before. Pieces of what I think is my life flash through my mind when I sleep. Images of Cody, the sound of a woman's voice, a man's strong hug. My mind reaches out to these hints to try and pin them down, but they rush away, and a chorus of excited whispers pull me slowly out of sleep. I blink in the stark light of the healing ward, staring up at Aya and Yasmin. They both have smiles on their faces, the pitying kind you can only give to the very sick. Stop, I say. Please don't look at me like I'm an injured dog you're about to take out back and shoot between the eyes. Aya covers her mouth, but Yasmin laughs so hard, it earns her a raised brow from Miss Alvarez. The sound fills the whole room and lifts my spirits. Things have been way too quiet since the healer shooed Rafe out. Wiping tears from her eyes, Yasmin grabs the back of 2 chairs for her and Aya. And we'd come in here to cheer you up. How are you feeling? Yasmin leans forward, elbows on her knees. My roommate still has her mouth covered and her eyes are a little shiny behind her glasses, like she's fighting back tears. I reach out and take her hand to give it a squeeze. She lets out that funny little grunt she always does when attempting to avoid crying, and ducks her head so her short hair covers her face. I'm sorry, she says. I've just been so worried about Cass and Rafe brought you back. I've just been so worried since old salt can't twist ghosts, but all evidence had me so convinced it still somehow happened. It's not logical, but fear often defines logic. Those bullets definitely hurt. I run my thumb over her knuckles. So you still feel like death? Yasmin asks. Or, death warmed over. Yes, I do. I grin and finally Haya lets out a weak sort of giggle. She adjusts her glasses. I can't believe the Xers showed up. The odds are unbelievable, really. That must have been terrifying. I scrunch my nose, thinking back to the people we saw in the woods. Most of them looked more like Sunday school teachers rather than Ghostbusters, or hunters from that TV show about urban legends. Theo matched that description better than they did. It was all kinds of weird reversal of expectations. The guns were scary for sure, I say, and they were weird, like you don't expect to be hunted down by somebody dressed like Mr. Rogers. It's very jarring. Yasmin laughs again. Mr. Rogers likes sweaters and breast bands. Guess that's some kind of group uniform. What do you mean, I ask. Well, Yasmin glances at the door, then back at us. Like Cass, since you know he used to be an Xer, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but then there's the fact that the Xer showed up when you and Rafe go to try and take care of his unfinished business. It's just, could it really be a coincidence? Pressing my lips together, I nod. It is a little weird that he still wears those clothes, and that the Xers attacked us when they did. But maybe he has a good reason for it. I'll have to ask him. Maybe he could give us an idea of how he might have been found. What do you think, Aya? Aya runs a finger under her eyes and lets out a sigh. I don't know. The data does add up to that kind of conclusion, but maybe we're analyzing it wrong. Missing pieces. He's always done so much for us here. Just because he had a messed up life doesn't mean he's still that person now that he's dead. It's not really fair to cancel someone for mistakes they made in their past, right? Especially mistakes they're making amends for now. Don't we all have stuff we did we never want anyone bringing up again? Oofda, yes, Yasmin says. Freshman year was not a pretty one for me. My stomach cramps a little and dread crawls up my chest. I'm sure I have a lot to regret in my past. I just don't remember any of it. What's it going to be like when my life comes crashing fully back into my mind? Will it come wrapped in shame or shining with glory? Most people are a mix of both. The memory of that hushed conversation between Mr. Q and Miss Alvarez pokes at my brain again. Why are they worried they need to protect the other students from me? Could it be some dark evil I committed when I was alive? And if so, are they afraid that when I remember, I'll change back into that horrible person? I shiver. I think you're right, Aya. Let's ask before we draw conclusions like someone else we know. As I've said, Landon's really not that bad. Aya frowns. I know he's snarly, but I think he really does want to protect people. Aaron getting twisted messed him up bad. It compromised his logic. Yasmin cringes. Seeing someone get twisted is definitely not something you forget fast. But we didn't come here to bum you out, Aya says. We also came bearing gifts. Scientifically speaking, sweet things always lift the spirits. She pulls a plastic bag from her purse and hands out cartons of ice cream. I immediately grab for the sherbet. Nostalgia runs through me as I take the first bite, triggering another life flash of me and Cody in a small diner-like restaurant. We sit in a booth with peeling plastic cushions. A woman in her upper 20s, who has my dark brows, sits across from us. She blows bubbles into her Coke, making Cody and me laugh. I blink as it dissipates. Though it isn't particularly significant or enlightening, it is the first time I've seen my sister's face since I died. Haley. Her name was Haley, and she'd taken care of us since... when? I can't remember. My still pounding head isn't conducive to thinking hard about anything at all. Instead, I focus on Haya and Yasmin as they chatter about lighter things. Another party this weekend, who's dating who, and gearing up for their own mission to take care of their unfinished business. It's then Yasmin's turn to wrinkle her brow. I'm a little nervous after what happened to you and Rafe, though. It actually kind of surprises me Mr. Q is investigating or anything like that. I'm sure that he is, Haya says, but he doesn't want to update us Missing People sounds like a good job for Team Untwist the Mystery, if you all are still on board. Definitely, Yasmin says. With everything that just happened to you and Rafe, even more so. Aya throws a glance at the door, then leans forward and drops her voice. I may have found something out. Since Locklear opened, at least one student a year has gotten twisted. But there aren't any records of how they were dealt with. At least nothing specific. All their files say